You, my friend, are the product of the attention economy. Your eyeballs equal dollars. And technology companies are scientifically designed to keep your attention. Whether it's Facebook updates or notification, ads that pop up after you search for a particular item. Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, on and on it goes. These products, these amazing technologies that can help keep us mobile and social and healthy, they have a downside. And that downside is they're designed to keep you engaged. So it's important for you and I to make sure that we choose our technologies well and we harness them so we are using it and they are not using us. And that, my friend, is the topic of today's Retirement Answer Man show. Welcome to the show. My name is Roger Whitney. I'm your host. If you are new here, this is the show dedicated to helping you not just survive retirement. We want you to rock retirement. And this is the end of a month-long series on how technology is going to change your retirement. And so I think this is a great way to end this series where we've explored innovations in mobility and socialization and health and learning. We have to make sure that we are harnessing this technology to serve us and not allowing it to make us serve it. This is called the attention economy. And I don't think most of us realize how we are up against a major arms race where these technology companies have massive forces that are playing on our emotions and our psychology and our nature to keep us coming back, whether that are push notifications, checking our status. And studies have shown that, especially with social media usage, that a lot of us, we have a lot of increase in anxiety and in depression as a result of using these social media platforms. And it's not just the social media platforms. On the retail end, Amazon being, the one that we think of most, but it's really everybody. The recommendations, the shopping, if you search for a certain kind of TV, you'll suddenly see these TVs pop up everywhere as you browse the internet. Or it could be an app you're using for yoga or tracking your nutrition or whatever it is that will automatically push offers to you to try to get you to buy things. And a lot of what we don't appreciate as much is how scientific the approach is to how they do this. So it's important for you and I to make sure that we are prudent in how we select our technologies and how we harness them and create boundaries, because otherwise they'll dominate our lives. And you can see it, right? You can see it whether you're on a train or at a restaurant, a couple sitting together, not looking at each other the whole time because their face is in their phone. It's not just teenagers. It's everybody. The video of the lady who was at the mall who was walking and she literally walked into a fountain because she was distracted by her phone. It's the distraction economy because it's the attention economy. So we're going to talk about how do we harness that for ourselves and avoid these pitfalls. But we can't do any of that until we have that all important disclaimer. Real simple here, my friends, is don't take advice from me on the show. One, I'm not giving you advice. I'm giving you helpful hints and education and hopefully some wisdom to help you on your journey. I only give advice to clients I work for as a fiduciary because I know them. I got to know people to give advice. People need to know you before you accept advice. So think of this as helpful hints and education. And before you make any decisions, talk to your legal advisor, your tax advisor, or your financial advisor, because that is just common sense. Now let's go talk about how tech has improved our life and some framework for how to choose wisely so it serves us. So this topic about the attention economy is getting more, attention. Obviously, with the issues of the elections and what the social media platforms and privacy issues and all this stuff, it's getting more attention. And I think it's not just, the internet technology stuff. It's also the physical stuff of there are a lot of products out there that offer they're all hat, no cattle, as we say in Texas. They offer a lot, but they don't really deliver a lot. And one of the best books I've read on harnessing this digital world and making sure it serves us rather than us serving it, which is what will happen if we're not intentional, is a book by Cal Newport called Digital Minimalism. He hopefully will be on the show here in the next few months. His schedule is crazy, and he's not really accessible digitally. But digital minimalism goes into this attention economy, and Cal does a great job of outlining the issue and a framework for how to harness technology without becoming a servant to it. And I'm going to share a couple of the steps from the book. I highly recommend you picking it up if you're into this or you want to make sure you're a good steward of your attention. I'll tell you which ones I've done and which ones I haven't. One is dumb down your smartphone. Delete all your social media from your smartphone, because just remove the temptation in the first place. And I think that's a good rule, is rather than relying on self-discipline. I mean, self-discipline is important. Removing the temptation in the first place works really well for me. So delete all the social media apps from your smartphone. That way they're not pinging you, and you can compartmentalize when you engage in these apps. He also says delete non-essential apps. A long time ago, I did a show on apps, and I think at the time the number was like the average smartphone had like 43 applications on their phone. So go through and delete all the non-essential apps. In a lot of these apps, usually there'll be one specific feature that we love or we need. Let's say we need a scientific calculator. So we'll download a scientific calculator app and we'll use it, but then we're not going to need it. It's like a, junk drawer tools. You needed the tool one time and you keep it laying around forever. Well, you can always re-download these things. So delete them off of there so you have a very clean smartphone. So you eliminate all these temptations around you and you have some clarity. Number 2 on smartphones is keep it on do not disturb mode all the time to avoid getting pinged with emails and texts and instant messages and all these types of things. Dumb down your smartphone is number 1. His second tip that I'm going to highlight here is to turn devices into single-use machines. So if you think of it, we'll just stick with the smartphone, but you can use it for a lot of things. It has so many different things. It's a little mini computer on there. Mr. Newport's argument is, hey, multi-purposing is a myth. Everything is single purpose. And the idea of multitasking, which was very popular for a long time, is there is no such thing as multitasking. It's really task switching just quickly. His prior book called Deep Work, which is a wonderful book as well, goes into some of the science behind this, is that, when you switch tasks, you lose a lot of attention and there's a lot of catch up. So turning devices into single-use machines by eliminating distractions or the possibility of trying to switch to different tasks quickly can really help you utilize and harness a device a lot quicker. Intentionality is really the key. So I'll tell you how I did this, because this is a big issue for me, because I time block and I'm realizing I'm not time blocking near as much as I should. And there's this concept of, if you have a task, there are uphill tasks and downhill tasks. So an uphill task will be something that's important to you that you want to accomplish. Let's say creating this podcast. Well, I have to outline it. I have to research it. I have to think of how I'm going to record it. I have to record it. all these things that I have to do. So when I'm outlining my shows, sometimes you get stuck. It gets frustrating, right? Because I'm like, oh, I'm not sure where I want to go there. Or what point am I really trying to make here? I got to go find this research and I can get stuck. It's like going uphill. It's a little hard sometimes. And it's very easy to switch to a downhill task. So what's a downhill task? A downhill task could be, I get stuck on doing the show. So I'm like, oh, I'll go check my email. That's easy. Or I'll go check Twitter and get caught up there because it feels good because I had that frustration of being stuck going uphill. So I'll just go downhill a little bit. And I'm distracted and I'll go waste a half hour or an hour. And then I know I got to come back and go back uphill again. So part of the argument is turning a device into a single-use machine is if you're going uphill, if I'm creating the outline for a show, yeah, there's going to be hard parts or just frustrating parts. If I set myself up to where my machine is a single-use machine, when I get stuck, I can't go back down. And I'll give you an example in a second. Being stuck or frustrated is just part of the process. And if you're able to sit with it and work on it and work through it, you're going to gain a lot more traction and you're going to accomplish a lot more and you're actually going to build some really good muscles. So what I've done, and he recommended it and a few other people did, is on my laptop, which is usually where I create my outlines, I'm using an app right now called Freedom, which is an app that you install on your computer. I don't know if it's for Mac only. I don't think it is actually, but I use a Mac and I installed it on my Chrome browser. And so I have periods of time, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., where I block access to a lot of downhill sites. I block access to Amazon, to Twitter, to LinkedIn, to news sites, all sites except for things I might need to use in my work. So when I get the temptation to go downhill and go to Twitter, I can't. Again, that lead me not into temptation mindset is really helpful for me because when I'm breathing hard, going uphill and frustrated, I can't rely on my self-discipline all the time. Better just not to have it available. And I open up a window or two in the middle of the day to go back and check in certain things to give myself some downhill action. And then with my email, what I do is I usually leave my email server always on while I turn it off so I'm not getting pinged and everything else. And that's the other thing you can do in addition to set yourself up as a single-use device is to turn off all these notifications on your computer. Like with a Mac, texts will come onto my computer, emails. I can actually answer the phone on my computer. All these things will ping me. And it's all set up by default to do this, by the way. So you have to go in and turn all of these disturbances off. That way, if you have a single use of something that you've decided before is important to you, like doing your budget, doing your estate plan questionnaire, you can eliminate the possibility of the attention economy grabbing you and taking you away, which is what happens to almost all of us. This happens with my kids. And I'm working through that because, in fact, Cal's book talked about it right around, 1995, 96, 97, which is where my kids were born, 96 to 97. The studies on kids that were born then that were never without all of this social media stuff, their attention spans and they're integrated into this. And as a parent, I have some regrets because I didn't know how powerful this stuff was or didn't recognize it and didn't help them create good habits. And I see how they're dealing with that a little bit now in their 20s. But I think this tip of having a single-use machines is a great idea. And the last tip I'll share from Digital Minimalism is use social media like a pro. So in the book, he talked to some social media pros, and they use social media to check in from time to time on family, friends, and news. And I think the theme of using it like a pro is not to use social media as entertainment. That's just browsing unintentionally. You can block times to go into social media, check on your family, check on the cat videos, check on whatever you want, and then put it away back on the shelf. I think what happens a lot is, I know it happens a lot, is we end up using it like entertainment. It's just candy that's always around and easy to grab, and we can waste, in some cases, our life with it. One radical thing I did, which it's funny because my friends, a lot of people have like, what? I can't believe you did that. It seemed like a monumental decision, is I permanently deleted my Facebook. I wasn't on Facebook a lot, but I had some, business groups that I was members of. And when I told people I was doing it and I did it, people were like, what? You can't do that. It's like not having a car in Texas. How will you live? It was very interesting, the response. And in fact, when I was going through the process of permanently deleting Facebook, it actually felt like it was a huge decision, which is scary because it's not. And I've been totally Facebook free for, a month and a half now. Well, a little over a month. No big deal. Don't miss it at all. I have more time and I'm more focused and I'm happier. Just food for thought. So as we think about choosing technology wisely, let's think about what areas we need to choose technology to help us as we walk this journey into rocking retirement. What technology will you choose to help you be more social? What technology will you use to help you be more healthy, to be more intellectual, to help you with transportation? What technology will you allow into your home? I think having an intentionality of choosing things are going to help us a lot. And luckily for you, in our practical planning segment, we're going to go talk to Richard Caro, co-founder of the Tech Enhanced Life, to talk about some of these issues and how to choose technology wisely. So let's go do that. All right, so this is the last week of this theme on technology. Now, next month, by the way, just to give you a little preview, a little teaser, the entire month of June, we're going to focus on longevity and aging and how long might you live? What is the difference between aging and longevity? What can you do now in your personal life and in your financial life to position yourself to rock retirement, even if you live to 100? So that's going to be all of June. So I'm excited about this, and I think technology plays into that well. But for now, to close this series out, let's talk to Richard Caro. So Dr. Caro is co-founder of Tech Enhanced Life. This is a public benefit corporation exploring the intersection of aging and technology with the mission of improving quality of older adults and their families, which is perfect for helping us end this series on technology and retirement. Now, he has over 30 years experience in technology and business as a startup CEO, a chief technology officer, a scientist, an inventor, an angel investor. He has a number of patents in this area, and he co-created the Tech Enhanced Life, which is a platform where they help identify and work with technology companies to actually help make a difference and be useful for people as they age. And as part of that, they have what are called longevity explorers, which are people like us that are interested in technology and have regular discussions on how to harness technology and not allow technology to harness you. So let's chat with Dr. Caro. So Richard, I love what you're doing with the Tech Enhanced Life and these longevity explorers. I described it, but why don't you describe sort of the purpose and what this whole project is about?
Sure. Well, at its heart, it's about helping older adults improve their quality of life, and usually relating to finding some clever new products that can do useful things. The Explorers, which is a piece of what we do, it's really a club. It's a community of older adults, typically in their 70s, 80s, 90s, even a few in their hundreds. Each circle, we call them circles, there are multiple circles of explorers. Each circle meets once a month to kind of interact and talk about products, ideas, really very broad. And then as well, we sometimes do hands-on evaluation of products. And we publish it all on.
Yeah, and you publish some really great stuff. And it's interesting you think of the combination of people getting older and technology, because the stereotype anyway is as people get older, they're still using 20-year-old technology. How easy is it, have you found, for these explorers and in your research to embrace these new technologies and learn them?
Well, I think there's two things. First, I think that stereotype's a bit misleading. You do read lots of articles about how everyone over 30 is technologically incompetent, stuff like that. But I've found that lots of our explorers are pretty tech savvy, but not all. And so what I've found is that it's really all about the use case. I think this is probably true of humans in general, but certainly with this demographic, if people feel like there's some really great thing that they're going to be able to accomplish if only they go to the trouble to learn how to use something, then I've found they're happy to do it, so long as someone's willing to teach it to them. But if they don't really understand what it's good for, and they can't quite imagine why they need it, then why bother? So I think it's really about the use case.
And it might actually be an advantage because they don't get overwhelmed trying every new thing, and they don't end up with 20 different to-do apps on their smartphone or whatever.
Yes, that's probably right.
Yeah, so
I mean, there's a happy medium, isn't there?
Yeah.
You want to try things out, but it is good to know what it's for.
So I thought we could dive into two pieces that you wrote not too long ago. One talking about AI and Alexa and a potential use case for that as you get older, whether it's for isolation or assistance. Why don't we talk about the power that this might be able to unleash for people as we get older?
Yeah. Let's generalize it a bit. I think we're talking about artificial intelligences, really. And so Alexa is an example of an artificial intelligence. But I think these comments, they're not product specific, really.
Right.
They're sort of general. I mean, there's competitors and things too that we don't want to ignore, like Google. But Alexa is a really interesting example because over the last 2 or 3 years, our explorers have gone from occasionally someone would tell us about Alexa and no one else would have heard of it, to now it comes up frequently and many of our explorers like her and use her. Not all by any means, but quite a few. So there's been a pretty rapid adoption, I've noticed. And some of the explorers are kind of passionate advocates. They really like her. They call her. And they use Alexa for many different reasons. But the article that you're talking about was one where I was kind of speculating a bit about the potential for these artificial intelligences to help with loneliness and isolation. I think that's the one you're referring to, right?
Which is a huge issue.
It's a huge issue, that's right. And our explorers are often interested in talking about that. The reason it seems interesting is, first of all, Alexa herself, can interact with people. And there's quite a few research studies going on at the moment to see if just that interaction between the older adult and the artificial intelligence, Alexa, can somehow help you feel less lonely. But over and above that, there's this new version of the product that came out called the Echo Show, which has the artificial intelligence Alexa in it. And it has a screen as well, which means you can say things like, Alexa, call John. And the next thing you know, you're having a video conversation with your friend John. And so as we played with it, we realized that maybe this is actually a way not just to impact loneliness by letting you interact with an AI, but maybe it's a sort of tool to help you have more and deeper interactions with your friends.
I think that's a great example of, and it is, we're using the term Alexa, but that's just sort of the manifestation that we all think of. It was funny.
Right.
The last time I did this, I used the term Alexa, and I got a lot of emails saying, don't say the word, because she's like, yes,
well,
what do you need?
I have mine turned off right this second so that we can have this conversation.
So pause the show and turn off your Alexa if it's annoying you. But I think that's a great idea. And I think video conferencing is a wonderful way of being closer to people.
What's interesting about this new instantiation of Alexa is that, if you already know how to do video conferencing with FaceTime or something, maybe you don't need this Alexa. But lots of our older adults feel that there's just a bit of a hurdle to doing conferencing using the existing tools, even FaceTime. And Alexa is noticeably easier, I felt.
Yeah, and I think as you then you get into the integration of seeing who's at the door, with these video screens and the controlling around the house. So
right.
Even if mobility is an issue, that you have more control over your surroundings and looking at cameras and changing the thermostat, turning lights off, all those things that can be cumbersome depending on how we are physically as we get older too.
Yeah, some of our explorers really like those applications. It's very varied. I've noticed any individual likes one or two of them, and then the next person will like a completely different set. So the features vary a lot from person to person.
The hard part with those is that there's never a trivia answer that goes unanswered, right? You're watching a show. How old is that person? Well, you could ask Alexa. So where do you see those going in terms of enhancing life? I guess in terms of the isolation part, but are there any other aspects of that you have found people leaning into?
Yeah, we have a sort of quiz on our website, actually, because quite a few people read some of our stuff on Alexa. So we're building up a pattern of which features are most useful that goes kind of beyond what we've discussed in our Explorer circles. It's quite broad. I mean, you mentioned a number of them. Turning on the lights, that's a popular one. Listening to the weather is popular. Being able to do voice searches is another one. And then I personally think that once these newer versions catch on, the making a call will be very important.
Yeah, and you could see that just be even a video call from the basement to the upstairs bedroom.
Oh, yeah. Several of our explorers do that now, actually.
Yeah. What are their thoughts on the potential in terms of intrusiveness, privacy, people listening, anything like that? Do you find your community have worries about that, or where are they sitting on that?
It's a big issue. Like a lot of these things, it's hard to generalize, right? Because everybody has a different point of view. There are definitely some people who are absolutely convinced that, somebody's recording everything, whether it's Amazon or the NSA or whatever, and they don't want any of this stuff in their house. That's definitely a point of view. But then there's other people who think that, privacy is sort of a thing of the past anyway. And so you might as well make the most of these new tools with the understanding that your privacy's gone. In between that, there's some more nuanced opinions that want to really understand just how robust some of these things are to being hacked and stuff. It's less the worry about the NSA or the Amazon recording stuff than it is people coming in and, being able to take control of all your electronics. So I think people are definitely very concerned about all that, but you can't sort of generalize and say, well, therefore they're never going to use it or they don't really care about it. People fall everywhere on that continuum of concern.
If we go back to the isolation for a moment, which I think is really important, is it's outside social media, but the ability, like with your explorers or in my community with the Rock Retirement Club, these are people that can find each other and their fellow travelers, but they're all over the country or if not all over the world and able to connect in a way that we never would have found each other in prior generations, which I think can help with that.
I agree completely. I think when you think about what I call an affinity group, which is, where you're interacting with some people about a topic you care about, those people might not be right on your block. And it used to be that meant you couldn't find them, whereas now you can find them wherever they are, can't you?
Yeah, and as you get older, sometimes we get stuck with who we have around us, and we just may not mix with that person, right? Whether it's a
absolutely
family or not. Some people have awesome neighbors. Some people have neighbors they don't have anything in common with. And, if your mobility decreases, you're sort of stuck with people that aren't your people.
Absolutely. Yeah. But also, even regardless of mobility, it opens up all sorts of new possibilities because even if you are completely 100% healthy, it used to be still hard to go find that person on the other side of the country who happened to share your quirky interest in medieval armor or nuclear physics or whatever it is that you're interested in.
Are those your two interests, by the way?
Not really, no. Well, I used to be a physicist, so one of them, yes, but not the other one.
Not the armor. That's a good point, because if I think of my top 3 or 4 friends, none of them are local.
Right.
Maybe one. Let's pivot to the whole idea of the merging of medical alert. You did another article on this, which was great. Medical alert and gadgets and wearables. And just the potential for these wearables to enhance our lives as we age. And if I can share a quick story with you real quick, since we talked last, because I'm a big fan of the Apple Watch. I think that, in my mind, that's sort of the best iteration to date that I've found.
But, the poster child.
Poster child, yes.
Yeah.
I think the day or so after we talked, I was riding my bicycle. I looked down, and I look up, and these 2 garbage cans had jumped out in front of me.
Oh.
And slammed right into them, flew over them, crashed my bike.
Holy cow.
And fell on the ground. The first thing that happened that I noticed was my Apple Watch started buzzing, and then it had the SOS.
That's perfect.
Am I okay?
Yeah.
And then
did you like that?
Yeah, that was a big part of the use case for buying it. I
think that's just a great feature.
Yeah. And then I was able to call my wife to pick me up all off of the phone.
Yep.
Or not the phone, because I didn't carry my phone,
off
but
your
just the watch.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about this intersection and how powerful these might be able to be for us.
Well, I think there's kind of 2 different aspects of it. First of all, consumer electronics has been developing all these features like step counting and things relating to exercise for some time now, which are, relevant for everybody, but they're certainly good things for older adults too. And so I think there's already this trend of useful new things you can do with wearables if you're an older adult. So that's one thought. But then the other thought is there used to be this whole standalone category of medical alert buttons, which were kind of things you wore around your neck with a button that you pressed if you fell over and hurt yourself and wanted someone to rescue you, right? And I say there used to be those. They still exist. They're very prevalent. So they serve a very real and valuable purpose. But lots of people own them or are given them and then put them in the bedside table drawer and don't use them. And then lots of other people wear them, and then when they fall over, they don't press the button for various reasons, right? Which we could go into if you want. But the bottom line is these things fall short of what they should be doing for people. And at the heart of the reason is that they're ugly. They sort of make you look like you escaped from the intensive care unit at the hospital. They telegraph, I'm old, I'm frail, I'm infirm. They're just really not very desirable. Some people don't care about that, but a lot of people do. It's sort of this rather odd category. And what I think is interesting is that just in the last year, we've seen the emergence of some new products that have that same functionality as the alert button, but in a way that looks like a piece of consumer electronics. And the Apple Watch that you mentioned is a perfect example of that because, you don't buy it because you want it to be an emergency alert, or maybe you do, but, you probably buy it for other reasons. But as well, it acts as an emergency alert. You can make a case it's maybe not quite perfect yet, and maybe if you want the perfect one, you still need the ugly one around your neck. But you can see that pretty soon it's going to be just as good and probably better. So I think that's incredible because now it moves this whole category from ugly, I don't want to wear it, to, okay, it's just another piece of trendy, cool, hip consumer electronics.
What came to mind as you were thinking about it, because I didn't think about it from the actual use and perception standpoint. As you were saying that, it made me think of hearing aids and how far they've developed from a size standpoint. It used to be a big telegraph, I can't hear, and now they're evolved to you can almost not notice them, depending on which ones you're using. Where do you see those things going in terms of the intersection of alerting others and, like with the Apple, it has the EKG and things like that, starting to be connected to our service providers? Do you think that's going to be a big trend going forward?
Yes and no. I think things that you want to have connected to people like your family, I think that will be a big trend. Things that you'd like to be connected to your doctor, for example, maybe that'll be a big trend, but it's got some obstacles because doctors don't really want to be sitting in their office monitoring everybody's EKG. So I'm not so sure about that one, although lots of people think that's going to happen.
Okay.
I just want to pick up on something you said because, you talked about hearing aids. That's another example, like the medical alerts, of something that's incredibly useful and valuable, but not terribly attractive, right? And in fact, lots of people don't have hearing aids who should. Very likely, well, partly they're
What'd you say?
Exactly.
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
No, that's good. They're very expensive. I was in a meeting with this, relatively young entrepreneur, and he was sitting there the whole time with one of those white earbud things in his ear. And he started, for some reason, hearing aids came up, and he said, well, his point of view was that pretty soon it's going to be hip to have things in your ear, and everybody's going to have things in their ear. And then suddenly hearing aids won't seem stigmatizing anymore. So that's another example, I think, of this convergence of consumer electronics and things that were designed just for older adults.
So the last thing I want to end with here is there's a lot of sizzle, there's a lot of hat, and a lot of times not a lot of cattle with all of these types of gadgets where there's a single use, but it's not worth spending the money on. And it's easy to spend a lot of money and a lot of time on things that don't necessarily enhance our life from a technology perspective. Do you have any words of wisdom and have a framework of how do you choose what is worth the money and time to learn, and how to tease out or cull out the things that are really not helpful and just complicate the situation?
Kind of, although it's a complicated topic. I think the things we've talked about so far today actually have the cattle as well as the hat. I think, you intentionally chose some of the good examples. But I do agree with you completely that there are many examples where, you get it and you go, wait, why do I have this? What's it for? So the rule of thumb that we use is, first of all, there's a lot of stuff that you read about that doesn't actually quite exist. There's a lot of vaporware type things and, press releases and all these things. And you go to their website and it says things like pre-order or coming soon. And I found many of those actually never do exist. They never get to market. So first of all, we completely ignore anything that you can't actually buy just yet. And second of all, it has to have a really clear use case that you can articulate for yourself and that you can say, yeah, actually, that would be great. So the medical alert, the business where you run into the garbage cans and then you can call your wife to come pick you up, that's a use case. And being less lonely, that's another use case. Whether it accomplishes it or not is a different question, but you can sort of decide for yourself whether that's something you care about enough to try something out. A lot of these products, they don't really have a use case. They tell you they're a something or other widget. There's a big difference between I'm a something or other widget and I will solve problem X for you. Those are two completely different things. And I think most of the ones that are hat and no cattle talk about being a something or other widget, not solving a problem. And so usually I've found they're not very useful.
Yeah, and I imagine one of the good rule of thumb is patience, because we live in an economy from a consumer standpoint where almost all the barriers have been taken away to make a purchase, whether it's one-click buy on Amazon or Apple Pay. And it's very easy to hear the sizzle and act really quickly. So I'd imagine one thing is just to slow down before we hit buy.
That's true. And at the risk of this being a sort of an infomercial, one of the things at Tech Enhanced Life we've done a lot of is picking a product category and getting all of the products and trying to decide which ones are good and which ones are bad. And that's been a bit of an eye-opening experience for me. Like, take jar openers, right? Ways to open a jar if you have difficulty, which you'd think it wouldn't be that complicated to separate out the good ones from the bad ones. Well, we went on Amazon and we bought, maybe 30 different ones that all looked really good on Amazon. And when we tried them out, some of them were really good and some of them were really terrible. And it just wasn't possible to figure that out from reading the reviews. And I'm not really sure why that is actually. But anyway, that's what we've learned. And we've learned that time and again. And so what I've decided is that in many of these product categories, there's both really good and really bad ones, and it's extremely difficult to tell which is which. So,
I think a lot of us rely on people like you that have an interest, that go test them all and that build credibility of being the test dummy. Not that I'm calling you a dummy, Richard.
It's one of those thankless but perhaps useful tasks.
Yeah, I think so. I love what you're doing at Tech Enhanced Life. I think it's great, and it's techenhancedlife.com. Thanks for spending time with me, Richard.
My pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
Welcome to the Happy Lab, where we noodle on how to live a happier life. And Nicole, tell me how much you love May.
May is almost like as bad as the holiday season whenever you have kids. It is so busy. So many things in May.
May, go away. Come on back.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. But you're having fun with the kids, but it is tiring for sure.
Right. It's fun, but it's just busy. It's so busy.
Yeah. Well, I have something that I did that has made me happier, and I'm not lying.
What did you do?
Well, about 3-4 weeks ago, I permanently deleted my Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
And,
how is that going?
And it even deleted our business account. There's no Retirement Answer Man Facebook account or Roger Whitney personal account anymore. I didn't go to it a lot, but I did, lurk and see what was going on with friends. I didn't really post much, but I did go to it a lot. I don't miss it one bit.
Really?
I've not missed it one bit. We have the RRC, so we have, our peeps there where there's a lot more of a connection than a lot of the quote unquote Facebook friends that you connect with everybody. And I have more time. I'm really focused on being focused. So I've enjoyed it. So these things, go ahead.
Picked up something new. Did you finish a book? Now that you're not spending time on Facebook?
I did. I finished Digital Minimalism.
Well done.
And I finished Free to Focus by Michael Hyatt. 2 books.
Seems appropriate that you did this after deleting Facebook.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of the season because we have so much to do to serve people. There's no time for these frills and distractions. I mean, getting all this stuff done is the only way I'm going to be free from getting you off my back.
Hey.
Slave driver you are.
That's me. That's
you.
Me.
With that, let's go set a smart sprint.
On your marks, get set.
And we're off to set a 7-day goal to take a baby step to live a better life. We have such a hard time with that. I wanted to make sure I get it right. Did I get it right?
Yes, you sounded very stilted, but you got it right.
So we're going to set a little baby step you can take in the next 7 days so we can focus on building those intentional muscles. So in the next 7 days, I challenge you to take your smartphone. I'm not telling you to put it in a drawer or leave it at home. What should they do, Nicole? They should do what you did.
Oh, well, you don't have to, but I put mine on Do Not Disturb starting at 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. because I text too much. That's really my big time suck on my phone is texting people, which is kind of good because I'm connecting with people, but also kind of in a shallow way. So,
okay. So any feedback on how that's gone?
It's nice because then I can focus on my husband and my kids and not feel like, oh, I hear my phone going off. I should get back to that person.
Okay, so in the next 7 days, maybe you try to put your phone on Do Not Disturb and just think of it as an experiment. All right, May is about to go away, Nicole, so we are happy for you. I applaud you.
Come on, June.
Come on, June. I will be in Colorado. So next time you hear me, I'll be talking from the Great Rocky Mountains somewhere. The whole month, we're going to be diving into longevity.
Hey, so I want to know, though, is Shauna still afraid of bears?
Do you ever become not afraid of bears?
I don't know.
Yes.
Well, you went to Colorado last summer, so I thought maybe that kind of eased her mind a little.
No, even we brought home a carved bear out of wood. The things you see on the side.
The one that was in your office?
No, this is like a big 3-4 foot tall bear carved out of a trunk.
Oh, okay. I don't think I saw that one.
And she's not afraid of that bear, but I think living, breathing bears, yeah, she's still afraid of them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, no bears for Shauna. So next month, we're diving into longevity. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of May before it goes away.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.